What we're going to do specifically is read the scripture a phrase at a time. And I'm going to give you time to really think about what Jesus is saying, what the metaphor is that he is trying to get at. So I'll read it slowly. Then I'm going to read the same thing a little quicker from a different version. And then I'm going to go back to the first version and read it all the way through. And then we'll transition. So during this time, it's going to seem a little bit strange because we don't normally read this slowly. But just sit in that moment and let God speak the words that he needs you to hear this morning. The eye is the lamp of the body. So, if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Your eye is like a lamp that provides light for your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is filled with light. But when your eye is unhealthy, your whole body is filled with darkness. And if the light you think you have is actually darkness, how deep that darkness is. The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness?
The principles throughout this series that we've been discussing really can apply to anything in life, but specifically we're speaking into a Christian context. That is, people who've said that they've decided to follow Jesus. We're talking about those who are, as Jesus says, if anyone would come after me. Remember, the words there have to do with literally being in the back of Jesus. He must deny himself, that is, say no to self, take up his cross, that is, die to himself. And then he says, follow me, which means you are in the path of Jesus. You are accompanying Jesus. And when you do that, you accompany him with your thoughts and with your actions and with your words, with your life as a whole. And so the context specifically that we're speaking into is those who are disciples of Jesus, and should we say those who would be disciples of Jesus. Now, that process, I think we would all agree, would be quite a bit easier if it wasn't for all the distractions that we have to deal with all along the path. Would you not agree? If it wasn't for all the distractions that we come across, well, being a disciple of Jesus, while it may have its ups and downs, would be a whole lot easier, because as we're going along this process, things grab our attention. They capture our attention. Now think of those two words. When you grab something, or when something is captured. When something grabs our attention, when something captures our attention, we naturally begin to drift into the direction of the thing that has grabbed our attention. Now, this can be a good thing, and it can be a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing. It's just life. It's the way things work. I mean, let's think about it. How often are you just going along your way, and all of a sudden, bam, something grabs your attention, and before you know it, you're going in a completely different direction than the direction that you were supposed to be going. Well, we joke about, in our household, my oldest daughter, she's always been this way. When it's time for her to take a bath, time for her to take a shower, whatever it is, clean up. And it would say, okay, Faith, it's time for you to go and do this. And so she would go and take her sweet old time to go in her room. But if the TV was on anywhere, it would grab her attention. And I think she did this on purpose because she didn't want to take a bath. And she would stand there, and you have to remind her over and over and over again, oh, yes, I gotta go get my clothes. Oh, that's the point. That's how life works, and we know it. Now, it's not always necessarily a bad thing, right? Things grab our attention and take us down roads that, well, we really never planned to go down. I think we all can attest to this. Sometimes, again, that's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. I'll tell you, almost 19 years ago, it was the summer of 2001. I was slowly working my way back to a relationship with Jesus, and I was attending a church in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. That morning, I saw this blonde-headed girl wearing a blue plaited dress with yellow sunflowers on it. And she grabbed my attention. So much so that I thought, I could marry her. And then she spoke. And you could tell she was from Texas. But she still grabbed my attention. Later, after worship, somebody brought her to me. I put her over my shoulders, we ran out, never looked back. She grabbed my attention. Then I found out that she was there on vacation with her family. And the whole time she was there, I didn't care that she was there on vacation. She captured my attention. The story is complicated, but a year later, I finally talked to her on the phone. See, that whole time she had captured my attention. In fact, it was March 28th, 2002 at 9:30 p.m. And we talked till 3:30 a.m. And the only reason I know that, well, that's a complicated story as well. That just makes my wife happy. She captured my attention. April 6th of that year, I took my first trip to Dallas to visit her. We're not going to talk about the truck that I traded in to get the car that would be more gas efficient to get here. I still miss that truck. She captured my attention. I didn't have to give her my attention. I was not trying to pay her attention. She took it from me. April 28th, I took my vacation and went to Waco. Waco. Chip and his wife weren't around. Why did I do that? She had captured my attention. May 24th, she came to Louisiana. That's a fun story. And she met my family. And she didn't understand a single thing anybody said. June 22nd, she was again in Florida on vacation. I proposed to her, and that was epic. I could teach you guys something. July 6th, I moved to Waco. December 7th, we got married. And she still has my attention. And it has drastically changed my life. And that's the way it goes. Things grab our attention. Attention determines direction and ultimately destination. And sometimes it takes us places where we never wanted to go. And sometimes it takes us places where we're glad it did. But regardless, oftentimes it takes us places we could never prepare. That's how life works. When we know this is true, attention determines direction. I bet you that you can pinpoint, if you look back in your life, you can pinpoint a time where someone or something entered your life, and now looking back, you wish they never had, because you think now your life would be better off if they never did. I bet you that you can look back at your life and you can think about times where you knew you were going on the right path. You knew you were doing the right things, and all of a sudden something or someone came into your life and derailed you. I bet you can think about, you can remember the conversation you were having with yourself, the tension that was there. Should I do this? Should I go there? Should I not? Should I call him? Should I call her? Should I not? Should I meet with them? You can remember those times where you knew you were going in the right direction, but this thing over here, all of a sudden, bam, grabbed your attention, but you knew you were needing to go in this way, and this was going to take you over here, and you began to play Russian roulette, and you began to deal with the tension that was there. And you probably remember those times where you gave in. And you wish you hadn't. You wish this thing had not come into your life. You wish this person had not come into your life, because it took you in a different direction. And it wasn't necessarily a good direction. I bet you that you can look back at your life, and right now you can think of times where you wish that you had paid more attention to fill in the blank. A person, a thing, just whatever season in life you were in. Now, the very fact that you can do that, and I know you're going to have people like Chad Wallace who's going to say, well, all the things we go through in life have made us who we are today. And while that is true, it doesn't necessarily change the fact that we can look back and pinpoint moments where our attention all of a sudden was on the wrong thing. And it took us in a direction that we regret, regardless of what we have benefited from it or not, regardless of what we learned from it or not. The very fact that we can think of times where something or someone came into our life, and we think now that our life would be better off if we had not given them our attention, tells us the thing that we know. Attention determines direction, and ultimately our destination. It's a principle painted throughout Scripture. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 12. Before Israel was to take the promised land, some work was done to prepare them for the distractions that they would face. God knew that they would be distracted by the cultures, the nations around them, and that the cultures could grab a hold, could capture their attention. And he says this in Deuteronomy 7:12. If you, notice, pay attention to these laws. There it is. Attention. And are careful to follow them. That's direction. Then the Lord your God will keep his covenant of love with you, as he swore to your forefathers. David understood this principle as well. Psalm 119, David is pleading with God No doubt thinking about where he is in his journey and the decisions that he's made, the things that have captured his attention and the direction that took him. And he's saying, Lord, lead me in the paths of your commands. And he says this in verse 37, turn my eyes. It's an expression that means attention. Focus my attention. He says, turn my eyes, mental faculties, attention, turn my attention from looking at worthless things. And he says, give me life in your ways. Why? Because if I focus my attention on worthless things, where does it lead me? In worthless places where there is no life. You see, attention determines direction, ultimately determines destination. And David knew a thing or two about that. In fact, you have Jesus in Matthew chapter 6, the verses that were read for us. Jesus addresses this principle in verse 22 and 23. Jesus says this, the eye, that is, what you gaze at, what you look at, what you see, what you pay attention to. The eye is the lamp of the body. It lights or leads the way, in other words. So, he says, if your eye is healthy, term there which means good, pure, wholesome. If your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. Light, the term used in reference to things that are good and divine. Then he goes on to say, but if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? Let's think about this for a moment. In Jesus' day, when someone would think of light, what would come to their mind? It wouldn't be the flashlight. It wouldn't be the LED light on your phone. It wouldn't be lights like this. It would be fire, specifically oil lamps. Now, think about it just for a moment. You don't hold an oil lamp to your face if you're using it to try to see where you're going. What do you do with a light? There's a reason why flashlights point where? Outward. To do what? To guide you. To lead you. And that's the point that Jesus is making here. What? The light leads the way. And just like the light leads the way, your eyes lead the way of the direction that your body is going. And if your eyes are focused on good things, what's going to happen? Your body will be, that is you, will be led where? In a good direction. And the opposite is true. And so we could say it this way. As your attention goes, so goes your life. As your attention goes, so goes your life. Now, we like to make fun of people who have ADD, and I like to joke around with Nate about that, because Nate is that guy who he's going along the way, and bam, something happens, and he's over here and there, and we don't know where he's at. But the reality is, that's all of us. That's the way our lives work. We're going along the way, something grabs our attention. Depending upon what that is, leads us to a good place, or it leads us to a worthless place where there is no life. So as your attention goes, so goes your life. Your attention, in other words, that is your focus, is like the light or the darkness that is leading the way. It's determining the direction of your life. The things you're focused on are determining the direction of your life. And so, I think we know this is true. And since this is true, I think you would agree that there is a need for us to stay alert. That is, to pay attention to the things we're paying attention to. Pay attention to what you're paying attention to. Are the things that are grabbing, that are capturing your attention, bringing you closer to Jesus, helping you follow Jesus, or are they putting you in a completely different lane? Are they putting you in a completely different path? Are they putting you in a place where you can no longer say that you accompany him, either in your thoughts, in your words, or in your actions? We need to pay attention to what we're paying attention to. And so over the next couple of minutes, we want to give you some time to reflect. Reflect upon this series. Reflect upon this specific principle that we're presenting to you. To focus on really what's going on in your life. The path that you're really on. And if there needs to be a change in direction. So in order to help you do that, to facilitate that, I want to give you a couple of questions. I'm going to ask a couple of questions that I want you to think. Whatever it is that grabs your attention, whatever captures your attention, hold on to that. And we're going to spend some time in quiet prayer and meditation so we can seek help in knowing what direction we need to go and how we need to deal with and address this thing that has captured our attention. Specifically, if it's not bringing us closer to Jesus, to being more like Jesus, if it's not helping us conform to his image, it's something that needs to be replaced. We need to go in a new direction. And so to help us, listen to these statements. Before we do that, I'd ask you just to assume whatever posture it is that you need to assume in prayer, and just listen to the words that I say. When I am done asking these questions, I'm going to lead us in a prayer, and then we're going to sit in contemplation for a few minutes. Remember, this is all about the direction. It's all about the path we're in, where we're going, what has really captured our attention, and that's not allowing us or helping us be more like Jesus. So, what or who has your attention now? Has anyone or anything captured your attention and they really have no business being in your life? Has anyone or anything captured your attention in such a way that it has pulled you away from the people or the things that deserve your attention? Is there anything or anyone that you're giving your attention to that, quite frankly, you would be embarrassed if it became public information? Are the people or things that deserve your attention, do they have to compete for your attention? Is there someone or something that you need to begin to pay more attention to? What are you putting off? For what are you making excuses instead of doing the right thing? What don't you seem to have the time to do because you're consumed with less important stuff? Father, help us to see what shifts we need to make in our affections and attentions. Help us to lay down our resistance to you and your will and open our hearts to your help. As we sit here in your presence, bring those things to our mind. Speak to us. What is it that's captured our attention and keeps us from you? Keeps us from hearing you. Keeps us from following you.